The phone rang just as I was settling at my desk, a jolt of dread already crawling up my spine. It was Dr. Martinez from Willow Creek Hospital. My heart dropped. "Mr. Reynolds? Your son Ethan? He's been admitted with serious injuries." The world around me blurred. I dropped my coffee, grabbed my keys, and bolted out the door, leaving my wife, Claire, still at her office. Panic was a physical weight pressing down on me. By the time I reached the hospital, my mind was racing through every possible scenario. And then I saw him, Ethan, lying on the hospital bed, his leg elevated and wrapped in bandages, bruises marring his face. "Dad," he whispered, eyes filled with fear and shame. I came home from practice early and I saw Mom with him." His voice broke as he barely managed the words. "With Richard Blackwood." I froze, disbelief and fury mixing into a sharp, searing pain in my chest. My wife, Claire, with another man? And not just any man, but Richard Blackwood, the wealthy lawyer who had always seemed too smooth, too perfect, too dangerous. Ethan's next words cut through me. I tried to confront him, but his bodyguards, Marcus and the others, they pushed me down the stairs. They threatened me, Dad. They said, if I told anyone, my baseball career would be over. I felt my blood boil. Rage took over every rational thought. I wanted to strike, to tear them apart, for what they had done to my son. But I held it back, knowing that impulsive action could ruin everything further. I promised myself one thing: they would pay. Driving back home, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly I could barely breathe. My mind raced with every detail I knew about Richard and Claire. When I pulled into the driveway, my stomach dropped. There they were, Claire and Richard, right in my bed, as if nothing had happened. The world slowed. My fingers twitched toward the pistol I kept for protection. But this wasn't about self-defense anymore. This was about reclaiming control, about making them understand consequences. "Get out," I growled. "Now, or there will be worse than words waiting for you." Claire tried to explain herself, her voice a blend of fear and frustration. "Tom, it's not what it looks like." I didn't care. "Out, or the police will decide what it is." They hesitated, exchanging glances, but the resolve in my eyes told them everything. Slowly, carefully, they left, taking the shadow of their deceit with them. Later, my daughter Jessica called. Claire, in a panic, tried to twist the story, claiming I had threatened her. Jessica didn't believe me at first. Her voice was filled with doubt and hurt. I had to show her the truth, the bruises on Ethan's leg, the cuts and scrapes that told the story of what happened. Slowly, disbelief gave way to horror, but trust was not easily regained. Even my friend Mark called, warning that Claire had spoken of my nervous breakdown to others. That made me furious. They wanted to rewrite reality to protect themselves. I wasn't about to let them get away with it. I decided to fight, not just for Ethan, but for the truth. At the hospital, Ethan recounted everything again. The fear in his voice, the memory of the push, the threats from Marcus and the others. He even named Marcus, the one who had taken the lead in threatening him. I listened, taking notes, mentally recording each detail. I asked Ethan to write down everything, to have a nurse witness his signature. Every piece of evidence counted. Then I called my brother, Danny, a private investigator. He agreed to look into Richard Blackwood, his finances, his business, his personal life, but warned me it wouldn't be cheap. I didn't hesitate. The truth mattered more than money. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text that made my stomach knot. A threat. Someone warning me to stop investigating Richard, or Ethan would pay the price. My hands shook as I read it, but fear didn't control me. Anger did. This was bigger than threats. It was about exposing the truth. I gathered my closest friends, Mike, Steve, and Paul, hoping for support, only to be met with accusations. They defended Claire, claiming I had overreacted, that I had threatened her. Their disbelief stung, slicing deeper than any betrayal. "You've lost perspective, Tom," Mike said sharply. But I refused to be swayed. I had seen the bruises, the fear in Ethan's eyes, and I would not back down. I hired Danny to dig deeper. He uncovered things about Richard Blackwood I hadn't imagined. The man wasn't just a lawyer, he had a shady reputation. His firm was involved in questionable dealings, possibly laundering money. He had been married 3 times, and all his wives filed for divorce, citing infidelity. Every new piece of information added fuel to my resolve. At home, the tension was unbearable. Jessica confronted me, unable to believe that her mother could betray our family. "Dad, this doesn't make sense," she said, her voice cracking. I showed her the photographs of Ethan's injuries, the proof that our lives had been infiltrated by lies. The shock on her face was palpable. Even then, disbelief lingered, but the seed of truth had been planted. I spent nights coordinating with Danny, piecing together Richard's financial and personal networks, bank records, photographs, witness statements. It all pointed to corruption and deception. Claire had played a role, whether willingly or as a pawn, in transferring money through client accounts. Every revelation made my decision clearer. The FBI needed to see this. Meanwhile, Claire tried to contact me, pleading, apologizing, attempting to rewrite history. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My focus was on Ethan, on exposing Richard, on reclaiming control. I had to be methodical, deliberate, and unyielding. Then came the day. Danny delivered the report. Richard Blackwood's operations were more sinister than we feared. His security team, the same people who attacked Ethan, were linked to past crimes, including the suspicious death of his 3rd wife. The picture was clear. This man was dangerous, manipulative, and had used Claire as leverage, willingly or not. I felt a cold clarity settle over me. Action was necessary, precise, and irrevocable. The FBI had to intervene. The threats, the attacks, the betrayal. They all converged into a single path of justice. I couldn't let fear dictate my decisions. I was taking back what was stolen, my family's safety and dignity. The day the FBI arrived, everything shifted. Richard Blackwood was under arrest, and for the first time, I felt a measure of relief. Claire protested vehemently, denying her involvement, but I couldn't ignore the trail of evidence Danny had uncovered. The documents, bank transfers, witness statements, they all pointed to her participation, even if some of it had been coerced. Jessica watched the scene from a distance, her face a mixture of disbelief and hurt. She had struggled to trust me, and now the truth lay bare before her eyes. I showed her once more the photos of Ethan's injuries, the tangible proof of the violence and betrayal that had infiltrated our home. Finally, she began to understand, not just the facts, but the scale of what had been happening behind closed doors. Then came the shocking news. Richard Blackwood was found dead in his cell. Poisoned, some said, though the details were murky. I felt a cold sense of closure. Justice had been served, in one form or another. As for Claire, she was convicted of money laundering and complicity in Blackwood's schemes. Her law license was revoked and her assets were seized. 8 years in prison awaited her, a harsh but deserved sentence for her part in the deception. Friends and acquaintances who had doubted me reached out with apologies, but I remained distant. Trust, once broken, could not be mended easily. Jessica, now aware of the full truth, came to me, seeking reconciliation. I listened, but forgiveness was not immediate. The wounds were deep, and the betrayal had left scars that no words could heal overnight. In the aftermath, I sold our house, severing the ties to the memories it held. Ethan transferred closer to me at university, finally safe and able to focus on his life without the shadow of fear hanging over him. I started a new job in a new city, building a life from the ashes of the old. I kept a single photo of Ethan on my desk, a reminder of what truly mattered and the reason I had fought so hard. The past, I realized, was a country I would never revisit willingly. But the lessons I had learned, the resilience, the courage, the necessity of standing firm in the face of betrayal, were mine to carry forward. As days turned into weeks, I felt a strength growing within me. I had faced lies, violence, and manipulation, and I had survived. More than that, I had reclaimed my family, my life, and my dignity. Others had played their games, but in the end, I had emerged victorious. The scars remained, but they were marks of survival, of endurance, and of triumph over those who had sought to destroy us. For the first time in months, I allowed myself a deep, unhurried breath. The sun was rising over the city skyline, and for the first time, I felt free, truly free, from fear, betrayal, and the shadows of the past. A new chapter awaited, one of hope, strength, and a life rebuilt on my own terms. In the quiet of my new apartment, I finally allowed myself to reflect. The chaos, the betrayal, the threats, they were all behind me now. The FBI had taken over the rest, ensuring that Richard's network was dismantled and that Claire's sentence was carried out. For Ethan and Jessica, the nightmare had ended, and for me, it was time to rebuild. I sold our old house and watched as the memories, both good and bad, faded from my life. The city around me felt different, alive with new possibilities. I started work at a firm that valued integrity, where my skills and experience were respected without manipulation or deceit. My colleagues were straightforward, honest, and supportive, a stark contrast to the treacherous environment I had escaped. Ethan thrived in his new university, focusing on baseball and studies without the weight of threats or fear. Each phone call with him reminded me of why I had fought so hard. His resilience, his courage to speak the truth, and his trust in me were rewards beyond measure. Jessica, still cautious, slowly rebuilt her relationship with me. Trust wasn't immediate, but the bridge was there, and we were beginning to cross it together. I kept the photographs of Ethan's injuries in a folder locked away, a solemn reminder of the darkness we had endured. They were not trophies of revenge, but markers of truth, of survival, and of the lengths I had gone to protect my family. Each day, I reminded myself that the past was a country I would never willingly revisit, but the lessons learned, they were mine, forever. Claire's name, once a source of pain and betrayal, became a ghost. Her sentence, her license revocation, and the confiscation of her property were final. Justice had been served, and the world moved on without her. The people who had doubted me, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, They saw the truth eventually, but it was irrelevant. I no longer needed validation. I had acted for my family, and that was enough. In the evenings, I would sit on the balcony, looking at the city lights flickering in the distance, a soft wind carrying the scent of possibility. The life I had built was simple, honest, and free from the chains of deceit. I had survived betrayal, stood firm in the face of danger, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I realized then that victory wasn't about revenge or punishment. It was about survival, truth, and reclaiming what was ours. The past had tried to break me, but I had endured. I had taught my children about courage, integrity, and the importance of standing for what is right. And in doing so, I had finally reclaimed myself. For the first time in years, I smiled without hesitation. The shadows of the past had been vanquished, and the future stretched before me, bright, uncertain, but entirely mine. A new life awaited, built on the ashes of betrayal, strengthened by resilience, and guided by the unwavering commitment to protect those I loved. I was free, truly free.